Hello again, it's Helen Dockrell from Notitia, and this is the video series walking through a typical client process. At this stage, your internal team is pretty confident about their roles and responsibilities and the updates to the workflow that are involved for them. So earlier I talked about the idea of your client team moving from a state of change into a state of ownership. A hallmark of transition between these stages is that the team starts to ask questions and test the limitations of the new workflow. It indicates that they're confident and that they understand the whole process. So, the ideal circumstance is that the planned system changes has resolved the issues that it was intended to resolve. And then at this stage, new ideas come up about things that would be really interesting to explore in terms of system extensions, the nice to have type category of changes for the future. As those sorts of questions start coming up, what we'll do is make sure that we compile a list of those and that we quite actively work with you to, as they come up, sort them into a now, next, and later type category so that everyone's clear on what the internal vision is for these systems going forward. Depending on the content of your business's data and workflow, it can also be useful to categorize these concepts into critical versus non-critical activities. Ideally, at this stage, there are no critical activities and there are only non-critical activities. The reality is more often that you're working within a certain budget, and whilst there are activities that are, maybe critical in the next couple of years, they are critical but not at this exact point in time. So typically we find that a combination of critical versus non-critical and the now, next, later categorization is helpful. So we might say in the next 6 to 12 months, these are the components that are both critical and a now type task. And these are the components that are critical, but they only become critical within, like a 1 to 2 year type range. You might have a situation where actually the system updates then completely sort you out for the next few years, in which case all of the ideas become a kind of next or later concept. But we're happy to accrue those for you still, so that if you end up wanting to come back and update things, or you get feedback from external people, you can review that against your list of ideas and come back to that later. At this stage, we're really looking to work with you on managing the strategic direction of that process update workflow. So if you do receive feedback from a client of yours or maybe the board on something that they would like to see changed in the workflow or added to the workflow, that you have a way to confidently have a look at the list of ideas and work out whether actually that does mean that you want to do that right away, or whether that's something you want to communicate to them might happen in a year after a certain thing happens. So for example, we have some clients who have different software. They've got plans for all of the different software. Maybe they want to do a migration to cloud that's planned for June next year. If an executive comes up to them and is like, I would like to add this view of data to this particular report, they might then be able to say, based on this system upgrade, we'll have all of this information at that point. I think it would be fantastic to do a short project then that involves updating that workflow to include all of this data, and that will get you what you want. So what we want is to be able to then make a sort of at management level, make the strategic direction of all of those workflows really clear to you so that you can own those processes as well.